Hello, good evening. As a parent, it is really important that we give our children. So, giving your children and grandchildren and even generations to come after you a healthy and happy inheritance or legacy is very important. My name is Ivingwa. I am a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and I support parents and children. And the aim of the support that I offer is such that parents and children can have, a life that is, fulfilling, and children can eventually, grow to become really, really responsible and resilient adults. So today I am going to be talking about a topic that is very close to my heart. But before I start, let me just make sure that everything is working as it is. So give me a few moments. I will be back. Just give me a minute. Okay, I am back. And like I said, it is really important to give our children a legacy, or let me say, a healthy and happy inheritance when we pass on. But then it begs the question, what is a happy and healthy inheritance or legacy? What do you understand by legacy? Is it the houses, the cars, and many other material possessions? Or would you say a legacy could be possibly the relational style that you live with your children, or maybe the character traits that you live with your children? Now, there are different people would, look at legacy differently. But the way that I see it is, what relational characteristics, what persona are you living with your children? How are you bringing up your children in a way that fosters that continuity within your your bloodline, not just in the material possessions, but also in the way in which they will then interact with the world. So today I am going to be exploring dysfunctional family patterns or dysfunctional family cycles. But before I start, I just want to say a hello and a good evening. It has been an amazing day for me. I always say that because Sundays are my best days in the week. And I know that for some people, waking up to a Monday can be a bit daunting, But for me, Sundays are the best days. Growing up as a child, I used to really, really love Sundays. So if you've just joined us, please do share this stream, and welcome other people to come and watch as well. It'll be really lovely to have other people watching. Now it seems like my Instagram is not working really well. Let me just just double check that my Instagram is working all right, because it seems like it's not working like it should be. Okay. Right. Okay. I think, well, apparently Instagram is working like it should be, but I can't see it. So it says I'm already live on Instagram, but I cannot see it. So I'm just going to carry on here. I'll share snippets of it much later. Okay, right. So, hello, good evening again. Oh my goodness, I feel like I've said good evening like 3 times, but it's fine. It's all right. So, if you're joining me, my name is Ivingwa. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, and I'm a mentor to parents and young children, okay, and young people in general, to parents and children. And the idea of me mentoring and coaching and teaching parents and children is so that we can grow our own adults who are resilient, in particular, who are happy, and who would carry on the flame that we leave behind. But the question is, in most families, if not all families, there are patterns that and cycles that we pass on to our children. What cycles are you passing on to your child or to your children? So this live today is mainly directed at parents, okay? And if you are a parent on here watching, whether you're a parent or not, please do share the live stream. I will really appreciate you sharing it. And I'll start by telling you a little story, a story that dates back to several years ago. And the live stream, I will be telling you a few more stories as well. So several years ago, working in a school as a teacher here in the UK, I came across a young girl who in year 11. Now, if you don't understand the UK educational system, year 11 is the year where you write your GCSE. Say if you were in Cameroon, then you would say year 11 is like Form 5. Or in America, I'm not sure what it is in America and Canada or other countries, but that child or that young lady was in the 5th year of her secondary education, which means she was gearing up to writing her final secondary education exams, which here we call the GCSEs. Now, I am in the classroom, and every day she wakes up, comes to school, and she is so disruptive. Like, this girl was giving me grief to the nth level. Okay. Now, if you've ever sat in a classroom in the UK, you will understand that as a teacher, you have just 30 children in front of you maximum. But in that class, tell you what, I had 11 young people sat in front of me. But it was as if I was teaching a class of 100, because that class was such that this particular young lady we're talking about, her behavior was awful. She was rude, she was disrespectful, she did not want to even learn. She just came to school to be with her friends. That's what she said. And this day, blessed day, I turned up, and I'm thinking, oh, I used to dread walking into that classroom. But I thought, look, they are just children. They are 15, at best 16-year-olds. What's the worst that can happen? Let me engage them in conversation. And that was where I cracked the code. Okay. Engaging them in conversation, this young lady tells me, um, I don't care about school. And in conversation, I found out that her grandparent did not go to school. Her grandmom did not go to school. Her mom has not been to school. And in her words, she said, I am the one in my family who's gone to school the most. And her grandma got pregnant at 13. Mom would have gotten pregnant at 14 as well. And both of them are on benefits. So, you see, this young lady, she wasn't taking her studies seriously, and she was 15, not pregnant, great, still in school, amazing, but not taking studies seriously. And I started asking, it made me to wonder that if there is a family pattern here, I can see a pattern of grandmom getting pregnant very early on in her life, mom getting pregnant as well. And then she said, I'll probably get pregnant and then be on benefits as well, get given a council flat to live in, just like my grandma and my mom. And immediately, I felt really, really sad. I felt sad because I could see a pattern that no one in the family bothered to break. I could see a cycle that is repeating itself time and time again. And when we look at our families, there are so many cycles that repeat themselves. Even in my own family, when I started to really be intentional, I looked and I wanted to understand the cycles that were, the negative cycles. And when I talk about cycles, there are positive, really positive cycles that parents pass down to children. But in some families as well, there are dysfunctional cycles. Have you seen a family where the cycle or the particular pattern in that family is dad was or mom was abusive? Okay. Grandparents were in an abusive, violent marriage. Parents now were in a violent marriage. You got up and your marriage is heading straight to the gutters as well. Okay. Maybe, if you are a female, maybe you are being violent on your partner. Or if you are a male, maybe you're being violent on your partner. And you find that your children are watching. Now, you are called upon as a parent to beware, because the patterns that you're living, your children are going to live exactly those same patterns. They are not going to be any different. They are not going to be different. And so I challenge you to seek to stop or disrupt those patterns, those cycles. Now, disrupting those cycles, is it an easy thing? Absolutely not. It is not easy to disrupt those cycles. It is quite challenging, actually, to disrupt those cycles. But it calls for some level of awareness and taking responsibility and walking even through the pain and through the shame and through the guilt that you feel for breaking those cycles. Because if you are in a position to break those cycles and not let your children live those same cycles, please do. There's one person on here watching. Hello. If you are watching, please do share the live and call other people to come and watch as well. So, why do dysfunctional patterns pass on to our children? Why did you inherit? Maybe, let me not say inherit or even inherit, because inheritance is not just, money and houses and cars and all of that. Inheritance, you inherit certain traits from your parents as well. Maybe it is the trait of the way that I talk sometimes is just the way that my mom used to talk, my late mom of blessed memory. So there are certain traits about me that I've inherited from my mom. And some of them are positive, some of them they need some work on, absolutely. And you may have inherited some things from your parents. What are the things that you have inherited from your parents? And if you haven't, if you are lucky to have your parents still alive, go and talk to them. Talk to them to find out what negative patterns there are that have passed down from generation to generation. Hi, Sophie. Hello, my darling. Good evening. Go and find out what patterns have passed down or what patterns are being passed down, because there are so many dysfunctional cycles that are passed down from one generation to the other that we need to challenge. And if you do not challenge them, guess what? Your children are going to have those same patterns. Okay. Thank you so much, Sophie, for sharing. I really do appreciate. If you do not challenge those negative patterns, your children are going to inherit them. And when your children inherit them, guess what? They are going to be able to pass them down to their children as well. So, how do children learn these negative patterns? Just give me a moment. I think I was going to put this on full view, but I can't. I don't know how to do it. Okay. How do children pass on these negative patterns then? Just one second. I am experimenting on something here. Oh, it's fine. Okay, so how do children pass on these negative patterns? There is something called enmeshment. Okay, so when a woman is pregnant, of course, we know what happens for a woman to become pregnant. Okay, there are so many things that happen, but the biology is, a sperm and an egg, make a baby. But then, as the baby is born, the first 6 years, from the ages of 0 to 6, those are fundamental years of a child's development. So during that time, the child is solely dependent on mom and dad or parents for their livelihood. If the mom or the parents of that child are not in a fit state to provide for the livelihood of that child, and it's not just livelihood here, I'm not just talking about food and drink. No, I mean emotional support, I mean physical support, I mean social support. every single aspect of that child's life, they are dependent on their parents for it. Okay? And so between those ages of 0 and 6, those are critical years. So the child is enmeshed with the parents. It just simply means the child is pretty much part of the mom and dad. A long time ago, when parents used to travel, they would put the child's name in the dad's or the mom's passport. That is a bit like enmeshment. Children are enmeshed in the lives of their parents, 0 to 6 years old. They are totally dependent on parents. And so the environment in which the child lives, which is the home of the child, not school, okay? School does not shape children as much as home, especially during those first formative years, okay? So the environment in which the child lives shapes their expectations. The environment of your children shapes the expectations of the children, okay? So, if the child grows up in an environment where there's abuse or there's misuse of drugs or alcohol, it means the child will normalize that behavior. So, if you are in an environment where there is abuse or alcohol misuse or drug misuse or some criminal behavior going on or some certain characteristics going on, your child will normalize that behavior. And when your child normalizes that behavior, those formative years, if the child normalizes the behavior, it means that the child has internalized that behavior. And eventually, when they grow up, what are they going to do? They will live those same characteristics. Why? Because on a subconscious level, they know that it is normal. The child might tell you to hit on someone is not good. you know to drink alcohol and get drunk and fall in gutters is not good. They will tell you that. On a conscious level, they know it, but on a subconscious level, those first 6 years, remember, the key word here is enmeshment. What is mesh? When you mesh one thing into another, it means you cannot really tell where one starts and one ends. Okay, 0 to 6, your child is enmeshed in you or with you, which means you can't tell the child cannot tell which behaviors of yours are good or bad. They see you as their hero, to be honest. So once they normalize those behaviors, it means that they will grow up to live those same behaviors. So, you parents, today I am challenging you to do an introspection. Introspect, look within. What is it in you? What is that behavior in you that you think it's not a good behavior, and that if your child has, you will not be able to stand it? Or let's just say if someone else has that behavior, you will not be able to stand it. What is that behavior? If there's a certain characteristic that you have, meanwhile you cannot stand it in another person, then you need to change it, because your children are watching and learning. Forget about what you say to them, okay? Because what you say to them is nowhere as important as what you do. They are watching, they are learning every single inch of how you move. I have watched videos where a dad is walking along with the hands clasped behind his back, and the child, the 2-year-old or the 1-year-old, walks exactly the same, holding their hands behind their back, or behind them. So remember that the environment in which the child is growing in has so much of an impact on the child's behavior. If that environment is an abusive one, then the child is going to normalize abuse. And therefore, the child will grow up, and subconsciously, because they believe that abuse is normal, they are going to become either abusive or they are going to tolerate abuse. So if you want your child to be able to recognize abuse and walk away from, you need to be able to teach them that because you are their role model. You have to teach and model the behaviors that you want your children to have. And so when it comes to dysfunctional family cycles, if you have spotted that this is a cycle that is dysfunctional, it runs in this lineage. My dad used to drink and get drunk. Now I am a drunk as well. Or my mom used to beat on my dad. Now I am in a relationship and my partner is beating on me. Or it could be one thing or another. I in my village, there were families that were known for certain things. You know, you would say, do not marry from that family or do not mess with that family, because you knew that there was a cycle, there was a pattern there. And it's not just one child in that household who exhibited that pattern, it was several of them. Okay. So early intervention is very important. So even if you're on here and you're not a parent, you aspire to become a parent one day, it means you need to start looking at yourself now. You need to start judging your behaviors. You need to start judging what are these things that, what are these patterns or these cycles, these dysfunctional cycles that you're living right now that you don't want your children to have. So that when you have your child, you're able to impact them in a positive way. There are so many of these stories in schools that I have worked at, that you find that the children come into school. Well, in the UK, we're as much of social workers. In schools, we're as much social workers as we are teachers. You find these patterns that children come into school and exhibit. You find that there's a child who comes in and there's total, complete. I'm sorry, guys. I'm having a phone call, which I can't pick an answer right now. There's complete disrespect. There's complete, I'm so sorry, that was a video. You find these stories of young people who come into school, and you find that, for example, I worked at a school where there was this young man or young person, a boy, and he completely disregarded any female. So he disregarded me as his teacher. And so, asking and probing and talking, you then I started to ask, what is it about this young person that makes you, when he's in a classroom which is being taught by a male teacher, he's absolutely fine. When he's in a classroom that is being taught by a female teacher, he is awful. He would disrespect the female teacher, he would talk down on the female teacher and all of that. And when you start seeing behaviors like those, you start to understand where those behaviors are coming from. It is nothing that the female teacher has done or not done. It is coming from the home. There must be something happening in the home. You can start to guess. Is it that maybe he's grown in a household where dad disrespects mom? And so he's normalized that. Therefore, talking to women in that manner is normal for him. And these are the kind of things that I want to really challenge, because working with young people, I have seen so much in terms of the variety of dysfunctional family patterns or cycles that as parents, you are called upon to do better. And the bottom line of getting rid of these family dysfunctional cycles is a lack of to become more intentional. Because these are, first of all, it would have started with one parent and then started passing on from generation to generation. If you're a Christian on here, they say, sins of the fathers are brought upon the sons. So, a lack of intentionality or intentional loving adults in the household is what eventually causes these dysfunctional family cycles. Because when you're intentional, you will value yourself, you will value your body, you will not go and, you will not abuse another person. You will love on another person. You will not, abuse drugs or alcohol or whatever, or porn or anything like that. You will not abuse it. You will value what exactly comes out of your mouth. You will value what you do with your time. You will value what you do with yourself. And of course, you will then value the people. Hi, Emanuela. Hello. Good evening. How are you today? I hope you are doing well. You will then value your children in such a way that you will not want them to live. There are certain traits in me that, I don't want my children to have those. And so I have to be intentional. I have to be intentional to make sure that if it's a negative trait that I see in myself, I am really intentional to make sure that it does not cross from me to my children. Because the truth is, they are watching and they are learning. So it brings on, it brings on the idea of epigenetics as well. I don't know if you've been reading about epigenetics. I've not read much about it. I'm still to read about it. I'm really in. By the way, before I carry on, I'm geeky like that, okay? When it comes to things like psychology, epigenetics, enmeshment, detachment, all of those sort of psychological things, and tying into science as well. I'm geeky like that. I can sit and listen to a TED talk, or to just a talk in general, to a teaching, to a lecture on epigenetics or some psychological concept. I can listen to it for about 4 hours. That is, I'm geeky like that, and I love it. I do really enjoy listening to those. You know, it brings on the idea of, you know what is it that we pass on to children? Is it just the fact that children inherit just our genes? Okay, so I am tall. Is it just that my children inherit just the genes for height? No. Science has shown that whilst children inherit, all of their DNA comes from their parents, they inherit the DNA from the mom and the dad. There is also an idea which is being brought forward that your DNA can also be changed by the people around you. That means, that is why there's this saying which says that, you are the sum total of the 5 people that you interact with. I was watching something as well on YouTube, and this person was saying that, I think it was on one of the episodes of Diary of a CEO, and this lady was saying that, um, who your friends are, you eventually pick up some of their DNA. And crazy, if you are a group of 5 females working in an office, or become, closely relating, then your menstrual cycles will sync one to another. How does that even work? It means that we are not just inheriting DNA from our parents, we're also inheriting trauma. We're inheriting all of those negative cycles, that all of those negative behaviors. Because as a child, or let me say, our children are from us right now, because we're older now, we're not living with our parents anymore. Our children are inheriting some of those negative cycles that we're living at the moment, because they're living in close proximity to us. Imagine if 3 females are together in an office working closely, and their menstrual cycles would sync so that they will start to menstruate simultaneously. It means that when it comes to, we're not just picking on the when you are in close proximity with someone, you pick on their trauma as well. And we have to be really careful how we interact with people, even on social media as well. You find that you go on social media, you were fine and jolly and dandy before you went on social media. You read 2 stories, and before, it just spoils your mood. So your children are watching and learning. They are not just learning, but their DNA is being altered. as a result of their close proximity to you. That is what epigenetics is trying to explain here. So, children inherit not just genes from us, they also inherit our trauma, our dysfunctional cycles, and they will pass it on to their children. Your challenge is to stop those dysfunctional cycles. That is your challenge. Okay? So, what I'm saying is, you need to be intentional, an intentional parent, so that your children do not pass down those cycles to their children. And worse still, so that your children will not be headache for someone else's children. Exactly. So think about, the way that you interact with your partner as well is a template for how your children are going to interact with their own partners. The way you fight with your partner. I'm assuming that every household, if you've got a partner, if you've got a husband or a wife, every household there are fights or disagreements, let me say so. When I say fight, I don't mean, not that. Okay? So, the way that you disagree and resolve conflict with your partner is a template for how your children would disagree and resolve conflict with their own partners. So you have to be really intentional. Intentional parenting is really key here. Okay? So, also, are you parenting from a place where you were being raised? Most of us were being raised by amazing parents. And in my last episode of talking about this, I did say about how you need to forgive your parents for whatever you think they did not do for you. That is part of breaking those dysfunctional cycles. Because the moment you hold on to that, you are likely going to live it and pass it on to your children. Thank you, Emanuela. Your children will not inherit your trauma. You're intentional. Very key here. And when I talk about trauma here, it's really important that I really explain it from an African's perspective or from a Black person's perspective. Okay, because the word trauma is very out there. Okay, now trauma is anything that caused you discomfort. For a 3-year-old, falling from falling falling from the stairs is traumatic. Like, okay, let me give you a classic example. My brother, he does not drink palm wine. Okay, he associates palm wine to a time when he had a really negative experience with palm wine. So that experience was very traumatic for him, so much so that he does not drink it. He's never drunk it for as long as I know him. But he said he had a negative experience with it once. And that was enough to stop him from drinking it. So that was a traumatic experience. So when I talk about trauma, it's not just, big, huge abuse, neglect, all of those big things. Yes, it could be small as well as it could be big. Okay? So it's really, really important. And some of us, we grew up in households where there was molestation, sexual molestation, not just physical molestation, but we grew up in households where there was sexual molestation. And you realized that in those households, there was this culture of secrecy in those households. And so mom would say, whatever happens in this house stays in this house. It doesn't go anywhere. And the children grew up in that household where there was molestation happening, and they would not say it to anyone. You find situations where dads will impregnate their daughters and nothing would be said. Or you found situations where the oga of the house or the madam of the house would have something to do with one of the house helps and nothing was happening. That is molestation happening right there. Because if you have a situation wherein your house help has an affair with the oga or madam of the house, There is an authority, there's power play happening there. You cannot tell me that that is consensual. So there's so many layers to this dysfunctional family cycles. And then you find that because it was so normalized, maybe the children knew and they could not say it out there. So this was passed down from the children, from the parents to the children, to you, the children at the time. And now you are the children at the time now, because of that secrecy, or because you normalized it subconsciously, you are indulging in it as well. And so your children are likely going to see it and normalize it as well, and they will do it. We find in schools situations where children come in, the children are so sexualized. Honestly, it beats my imagination how children will come in and they are already at very young ages so sexualized that you find a young boy, a 5-year old in a primary school. You find children in primary schools doing things that they should not be doing, which I cannot even, open my mouth to say. And all of these are coming from the home. They're not coming from anywhere else. You find situations where, uncles and aunts, there are things happening in the family, and the thing is, nothing in this household leaves. It stays in here. The parents are not willing to bring the uncle or the aunt who's molested the young child to they're not willing to tell the police, and so it stays unresolved. That child takes that trauma into their adulthood. They have their own children, and it is the same thing. That pattern just keeps repeating itself. The pattern just keeps repeating itself. So it's something that we really need to be intentional about. And how do we become intentional? This word intentional, so many people are talking about it. And, the idea, most of these concepts, when people talk about them, I understand them and I apply them to my own African context. So, how do we become intentional then? The first thing is you have to love your child. You have to love your child. And I don't mean, have you eaten? Because where we grew up, when I was growing up, the idea of love was food. Love was kind of related to food, and that is fine. And that is how I do. I almost do that now. I do that now. It's not like I almost do it. To me, the greatest gift of love that I can give my children is giving them food, cooking for them, making sure that they have something to eat. Even if I'm tired and I'm dying and I'm so tired, know that I will find something for them to eat. But that is not just the only thing that signifies love. The hugs, the kisses on the forehead, all of those, the appreciation, the acknowledgement, the compassion that you give them, even sometimes the boundaries that you set, that is love. And you have to explore the whole range of showing love to your children. And sometimes, you have to make sure that you teach them how to resolve conflicts. Some of us grew up in households where we inherited those dysfunctional family cycles of anger from our parents. We're so angry. We cannot emotionally regulate. And because we cannot emotionally regulate, we when something annoys you, the only thing is you go straight into from 0 to 100. You become so angry. And when you become angry, maybe you lash out, maybe you hit, maybe you punch, maybe you throw a fist here, there, and the other place. Those are patterns, those are cycles. In this day and age, you cannot just blow off your top like that, because you are in work, you're being annoyed at work. If you do, Your only outlet would be your family. And when your outlet is your family, you take things out on your family that happened at work. Because you don't want to lose your job, so you just smile in there at work and then you come home and take it out on your family members. So I challenge you, what legacy or inheritance do you want to leave your children? Is it a legacy of dysfunction? Or is it a legacy where you break the dysfunction now as a parent so that your children can grow confidently, so that your children can grow in trust, so that your children can be able to give and receive love in a healthy way? Because for most children who grew up in dysfunctional households, they don't know what love is. They really don't understand it. But you can learn. All is not lost. If you're a parent on here watching me and you happen to have grown up in such a household where there was dysfunction, I challenge you to turn it around for your children. Let your children not live the same cycles that you lived. And even if you're a parent on here and you're not sure if there was any dysfunctional cycles, look within. You might be the parent who starts that dysfunctional cycle. Okay? You might be the parent who starts that dysfunctional cycle. And so you need to look within and seek out ways to stop this dysfunctional cycle. I hear you ask, how do I stop it? The first thing is awareness. When you're aware that something is there, you can then find solutions to it. But if you're not aware that it is there, you will not be able to find any solutions. If you're ignorant, then you just live in ignorance. Ignorance is not bliss. Honestly, it's not. Ignorance is not bliss. Thank you, Mercy. Thank you for coming. Hello, everyone. If you're just joining, please do share the video. I really want this video to reach as many people as possible. And thank you so much, Sophie, for sharing. If you're anyone on here and you've not shared, I urge you to share the videos. You can also support us with stars. Stars is a digital currency which helps us to get money so that we can, so that the podcast which I will be bringing to you every other Sunday, I would really bring guests who would touch you, who will share their stories as well. Okay, so that self-reflection and awareness is really, really important. It's so important. So if you do not introspect, if all you're doing is living in your, out here, you wake up, you go to work, you come back, you cook, you eat, you drink, you sleep, you get up, you play, you go to work, come back. If that is just what you're doing with your life, you need to stop at some point and look within. You really, really need to stop. And if you, like I said, if you're lucky to have your parents alive, talk to them, ask them. They will tell you cycles in the family that you may never have known that were in existence. Because every family, there is none. Every family has a dysfunctional family cycle. It might be alcoholism in your family. It might be abuse in your family. It might be anger in your family. It might be that there are people in your family who are manipulative, or cycles that are manipulative cycles in your family. It might be molestation in your family. So every family has a dysfunctional cycle. You just need to spot it. How do you spot it? You introspect. Look within yourself. You have it in there. It is in there. Tell you when you look inwards, what you see sometimes is not pleasant. And because it's not pleasant, many people shy away from it. Oh, Auntie Bella, thank you. Many people shy away from it because sometimes I look within, and in my heart, I can see jealousy. Yeah, I'm just going to be honest. Sometimes I see envy in my heart. Sometimes I see manipulation in my heart. And tell you what, when you see those, it's not something. Every single one of us has the ability to be jealous, to be angry, to be manipulative, to be envious, to, you know, but the good thing is you cannot unsee what you have already seen. And when you are someone who is reflective, it means that you can do something about it. That self-awareness is really, really key. So in order for me to leave you, I'm going to leave you soon, but because it's almost 8 o'clock, I have said to myself, I won't be on here for more than an hour. So for me to leave you, I want to leave you with a few things here. Okay. The first thing is, in order for you, for your child's academic success to be guaranteed in schools, okay, to build your child's academic success, you have to meet certain needs. There are two fundamental needs that you have to meet. The first one is their emotional needs and their relational needs. How you relate with your child feeds directly into their academic success. Your child's emotional needs feed directly into their academic success. If your child leaves home in the morning and is not emotionally sound, they will not learn anything in school that day. Trust me. If your child is leaving home knowing that their relationship with you is not good, they will not learn anything in school that day. That is for sure. So whatever happens, when you send your child out to school, make sure that there's no animosity. Wait until the child comes back before you start to address certain things. Do not be screaming and yelling and shouting at them on their way to school. Don't, please. Because they will not learn anything that day. That's the first thing I'm leaving with you. The second thing I'm leaving with you is that you should refuse to leave a story of pain in your child's life. Vehemently refuse to leave your child with a story of pain, because they will leave their own children with a story of pain as well. Remember, like I said, it is not a conscious thing. It is a subconscious thing. Your subconscious mind controls your conscious mind. Yes, I know that drinking and getting drunk, I know that using drugs is not right, but why do I still use it? Because subconsciously I have normalized that the use of drugs is okay. Because the template that I had, the foundation that I had in my formative years was that use of drugs is okay. So remember, those ages of 0 to 6 years, those formative years of a child's life, very important. What they normalize is what they will live eventually. It's not to say children after those years cannot pick and pick behaviors and all of that. They can still learn it. But remember, whatever your children see as normal is what they will live, because it is their beliefs, their subconscious. Your belief is in your subconscious mind. You know, for those of you who are Christians, for those of us who are Christians, we believe that God is there. We can't see God consciously. We cannot see, feel, or touch. But subconsciously, there's a belief in there. Okay? And the third thing that I'm going to leave with you is a question. What legacy or inheritance do you want to leave your children? And I do not mean material things. I don't mean material things. Nothing material. Yes, you can leave them houses and cars and money in the bank and all of those things. But what legacy are you going to leave your children? What inheritance are you going to leave them? Are you going to leave them with an inheritance of abuse, where they would normalize abuse? Either they receive abuse and feel that it's normal, or they give abuse to other people? Are you going to leave them with an inheritance of compassion and kindness and trust and self-love? Are you going to leave them with an inheritance of confidence and self-respect and the ability to trust and give love in a healthy way? Or are you going to leave them with an inheritance of drugs and criminal behavior? Are you going to leave them with an inheritance of sexual molestation or other forms of molestation or whatever, or pornography or whatever? What legacy are you going to leave to your children? What inheritance would you leave to your children? Hey, my name is Ivy Ngwa, and like I say, I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor, and I'm a coach to parents and children. And the idea is to help us grow our own adults who are kind and resilient in the future. Let me just look at the comments. You always have a great choice of topics, Ivy. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and experience. Thank you so much, Eric. I really do appreciate you. Yes, Emanuela. Thank you so much, Emanuela, for putting those notes in the comments. If you are watching this much later, please do leave a comment or do share it with other people. Next week, okay, before I go, next week is episode 2 of our Parenting Made Simple podcast. Remember, the podcast is happening every other Sunday. This Sunday is just a normal, regular live show. Next Sunday, same time, 7 p.m. UK time, or whatever time it is your time, it is going to be episode 2. I have got an amazing guest coming in next Sunday. Do not miss it for anything in the world, okay? And next Sunday, we're going to be talking about well-being for children. Okay, that is what we're going to be focusing on. And I've got an amazing guest who will be joining me next week. So I will see you next week. Do not miss it. Do not miss it. In the meantime, keep sharing this live and keep coming back on Sundays, same time. It is always going to be on Sunday, same time. On Sunday, same time for another episode of Parenting Made Simple. I am your host today, and my name is Ivy. And by the way, if you are a parent on here, or if you are a parent or an aspiring parent or grandparent, we never can tell, and you think that you would like some mentoring, or you would like your child to have some mentoring or coaching as well, do get in touch with me. Send me a DM. I am a DM away. Okay, send me a DM, or you can copy the number that is scrolling on the bottom of the screen just here. Okay, the number that is scrolling on the bottom of the screen, send a DM to that number, and I will be able to get in touch with you, and then we can chat, we can talk, and we can see how I can support you if that is what you would like. You take care of yourself and have a lovely, lovely Sunday. Ciao, and keep being a great parent. Bye bye for now.